Week 14, Sunday. A reading from the Sermons of St. Augustine. A contrite heart is a sacrifice to God. I acknowledge my transgression, says David. If I acknowledge it, then pardon me, O God. We must not assume at all that we are living good lives free from sin. Let a man's life be praised in so far as he asks for pardon. But as for men without hope, the less attentive they are to their own sins, the more they pry into those of others. They seek not what they can correct, but what they can criticize. And as they cannot excuse themselves, they are ready to accuse others. This was not the way that David showed us how to pray and make reparation to God when he said, I acknowledge my transgression, and my sin is always before me. David was not interested in other men's sins. He turned his mind to himself, not in self-flattery, but in entering deeply within himself. He did not spare himself, and so it was not presumptuous of him to pray that he might be spared. Do you want to be reconciled with God? Learn how to act towards yourself, that God may be reconciled with you. Notice what you read in the same psalm. If you wanted sacrifice, I would offer it. You take no pleasure in burnt offerings. Will you then have no sacrifice? Will you offer nothing, not propitiate God with any offering at all? What have you said? If you wanted sacrifice, I would offer it. You take no pleasure in burnt offerings. Go on with the psalm, listen and say, the sacrifice acceptable to God is a broken spirit. A broken and a contrite heart he does not despise. Having abandoned your former offerings, you have found what to offer. Among those of old, you used to offer victims from the herds, and they were called sacrifices. If you wanted sacrifice, I would offer it. Therefore, you do not seek those former offerings, and yet you seek a sacrifice. You take no pleasure, David said, in burnt offerings. Since you take no pleasure in burnt offerings, will you remain without a sacrifice? Far be it. The sacrifice acceptable to God is a broken spirit. A broken and a contrite heart he does not despise. You have what to offer. Do not examine the flock. Do not prepare ships and penetrate to the most distant provinces to bring back perfumes. Seek in your heart what is acceptable to God. You must rend your heart. Why do you fear that it may perish if it is broken? Here you have those words, create in me a clean heart, O God. So then, that a pure heart may be created, let the impure one be broken. We must be displeased with ourselves when we sin, because sin displeases God. And as we are not without sin, let us at least be like God in this respect, that what we are displeased with is what displeases Him. You are to a certain extent united with the will of God, because you are displeased with what is hateful to Him who made you.